We have breaking news in the case of Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. It's a big break. We have video and still pictures of the unnamed suspect in a ski mask. The videos and pictures were released by the Pima County Sheriff and the FBI. They show an armed individual walking up to the front door of the Guthrie home. Sheriff says the individual appears to have tampered with the camera at the front door. In the video, you can see the suspect holding a flashlight in his mouth and holding what looks like a bunch of flowers or leaves. The FBI is asking anyone with information or tips to contact them immediately. Senior correspondent John Huddy joins me from Tucson. John?
Yeah, Greta, this is a major development. Not even 24 hours ago, both the Pima County Sheriff's Department and the FBI released statements almost around the same time that Savannah Guthrie released that video message asking and appealing for the public's help. But both Pima County and the FBI saying that while the investigation was ongoing, while they are expanding the investigation, following any potential new leads, there were no suspects or a suspect or a person or persons of interest that they had identified. Well, fast forward to today, and earlier this afternoon we confirmed with Pima County that there was going to be an update in the case. Well, then we got that update. FBI Director Kash Patel posting on X a statement talking about the images, the pictures, the video of this individual, a quote-unquote armed individual, walking up to Nancy Guthrie's front door here on the night and the morning of her disappearance, seemingly tampering with that Ring camera outside, which was missing, which the FBI, which local officials were looking for on both the night and then the day that she disappeared. And Patel posting in his statement that, quote, over the last 8 days, and I'm going to read this because it's important, over the last 8 days, and now, keep in mind, we're in the 10th day here. The FBI was brought in a couple days, but over the last 8 days, the FBI and Pima County Sheriff's Department have been working closely with our private sector partners to continue to recover any images or video footage from Nancy Guthrie's home that may have been lost, corrupted, or inaccessible due to a variety of factors, including the removal of recording devices. Well, he goes on to write that the video was recovered from residual data located in back-end systems. And then he goes on to say in the statement that working with our partners as of this morning, so as of today, law enforcement has uncovered these previously inaccessible new images showing that armed individual appearing to have tampered with the camera at Nancy Guthrie's front door the morning of her disappearance. Savannah Guthrie, Greta, posted a message on her Instagram today after these images were released by the FBI and Pima County, writing that someone out there recognizes this person. We believe she is still out there. Bring her home. And that's really repeating what she said in her Instagram post last night, yesterday evening, appealing to the public for any help, any information that would lead law enforcement officials to identifying a suspect, a person of interest that would then lead to the discovery of her 84-year-old mother and bringing her mother home. You know, Saturday night, remember, she posted that video begging for the safe return of her mother and then saying, we will pay, presumably in response to those alleged, keyword alleged, ransom messages that were sent to local media, including one demanding the $6 million in Bitcoin by that 5 p.m. deadline yesterday local time. Well, that deadline, Greta, came and went without any further action, without any purported messages being sent or a message to local media. In fact, the FBI then releasing in its statement, not only saying they didn't have a suspect or a person of interest, then saying they were not aware of any ongoing communications between the Guthrie family and any kidnapper or kidnappers. So obviously this is a major break. You know, one of the things that we saw when we were on the ground here over the weekend on Sunday, Greta, were Pima County investigators coming here to Nancy Guthrie's home and going and basically walking, as I walk over here, the backyard perimeter of her home, which sits on, I'd say, about an acre. One of those investigators probing with a long metal pole, the brush, the cactus, and then at one point, what appears to have been and what appears to be a septic tank and the septic systems. You know, these lots here, in what's called the Catalina foothills of Tucson, operate on septic systems. The other thing, and we've been talking a lot about this, is that there are light restrictions here in this area. So it is very dark at night. It is very dark in the early morning hours as well. And that's something that we notice in those images with that person who's got the balaclava on, who's got a coat on, who's got gloves on, who is armed with a handgun, walking up to her front door and then tampering with that Ring camera, which was missing, along with some other items, along with some other cameras in the backyard. Watch yourself, Carlos. Let me get the photographer out of the way as a vehicle's coming through. You know, so investigators were here Friday as well. They removed a vehicle from Nancy Guthrie's garage, presumably her vehicle, and also some other items, including a floodlight in the back and what is believed to be a motion sensor that was on the roof as well, Greta. So again, a major development in this case as the FBI has put out a new missing person poster with images of this person, with Nancy Guthrie's picture, appealing and asking the public for any help identifying that individual. Greta.
Okay, let me ask you a couple of questions. First of all, maybe the control room can help me. There's obviously the picture of the backpack, but there's one picture of him where he doesn't appear to have any backpack on. Do we have those pictures we can put up on the screen? There he seems to have a backpack on. Then there's one a little bit farther away where it appears to have no backpack. He's got a backpack on this one. I don't know if you can see the screen, John. But there's another picture. Well, as we roll through them.
But I know what you're referring to. I know what you're referring to.
Okay, what do you? I mean, that's bizarre. He put that backpack down at some point, and it's a big backpack.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point, and some folks online looking at this and members of the media as well, including myself, noticed that as well. And that's a question among many unanswered questions. What was he doing? What was he doing in the backpack? Why was he armed? And also, he grabs from the front, and let me get out of the way so Carlos can show you. He at one point reaches down and grabs some of the shrubs from just below to the left side of the archway there, and then he's using those, even though he's gloved, to kind of tamper and take that Ring camera off the front, presumably. Now, I'm not a detective, I'm not law enforcement, but presumably maybe to obscure any potential prints, anything like that. The other question, Greta, is how did he access the property? Did he go in through the front? Did he come in from the front, or did he come in from the back of the property? Hence the reason investigators were out there walking the perimeter on this past Sunday.
All right. John, how close can you get a car to that arched door?
How close can you get a car to the arch door? Is that what you said?
Yes. Yes, because there's blood on the porch.
Let me show you.
I'm just wondering how far.
Let me show you.
Okay.
Yeah, so this gives you a good idea. And by the way, Pima County, on the request of the Guthrie family on Sunday, they set up a 24-hour police presence here. Now a second deputy came here. They're blocking the driveway. But this gives you an idea. So this is the one driveway. There's two accessible points on the driveway. It's kind of like a little bit of a horseshoe. There's this one, and then there's one down here. And I would say, I mean, I don't know, maybe 40 yards, if I had to guess, 35, 40 yards between the street, between the driveway and walking right up to that archway.
No, the reason I'm asking is if you pull a car up through that horseshoe driveway, and you pull it right up to the porch because there was blood on the porch. And I'm just wondering whether, that would be the point where you put someone in a vehicle right there, or whether the body had to, or the person had to be moved.
Right. So let me show you, Carlos. What I want you to show is I want you to show the driveway leading up to the front door. Let me just kind of have our photographer give you an idea. So this is the one side of the driveway, and lead up. You see it kind of goes up and it leads up to the front, and then let's walk this way. Just follow me. So you could go, I don't know if that gives you an idea there, Greta.
Yeah, I got it. You can pull right.
And then
All right,
walk
here's
over
another
here,
question.
Here's
another question that I have.
Yeah.
You talked about something in the person's hand. It looks like next to the left side of the door, for instance, there's a pot of flowers. And for the life of me, I can't figure out why this person would go and grab something from that area unless there's a key hidden there or something else, because there's no report of breaking and entering. You can hide the camera with your gloved hand, or you can rip it off.
Show the front door area. Right, and that's something that I noticed as well. And like I said, he's kind of walking up, looking around, and then he goes down, he picks up, he kind of rips out some of the shrubs there, the flowers just to the, to the left side of that archway there, right before the front door and that entranceway, and then kind of uses that to tamper with the Rig camera. I'm just, my presumption on that is that he was, he had gloves, or he or she, whomever, had gloves on and was using the shrubs maybe just to even as further kind of to obscure his hands or something like that. That's the only thing I can think of, John, as far as that goes.
John, you don't need that.
Yeah.
The camera will shoot through the different stalks of the flowers. You put your hand over the camera and that's it, or you rip the camera off.
Well, that's true. That's correct. I mean, look, there's a lot of unanswered questions here. Also, the other question is that's only one camera in the front. There were others in the back. So what happened to those cameras? Some were missing as well. So were they able to access anything from outside, anything from possibly inside as well? And here's the other crucial question. We were talking about this yesterday and again today. Does the family, does law enforcement have any proof of life that Nancy Guthrie is in fact still alive? We all hope she is. The family hopes she is. Law enforcement hopes she is. And they're really now, moving forward quickly on this after 10 days. Seemingly this was coming to, going nowhere when based on those statements yesterday from law enforcement. But the hope is that she is still alive. The question is, where could she possibly be? And was medication taken with her? The Sheriff Cristano said she needed medication. So did this person go in and take that medication as well?
First of all, there isn't a lot of blood. They're blood drops, so there's not like a tremendous amount of blood, which would be suggest something much worse than just being kidnapped. Not that isn't horrible. But the other thing in terms of the medication, for the life of me, I can't think what that medication is. I would think maybe it's a blood thinner, but a lot of people need blood thinner that never take it and never get a clot and never have a stroke. I mean, what is this medicine that's so imperative? I've always thought that might be overstated. I mean, it might be something she certainly needs and been prescribed, but that it's not life-threatening unless, of course, she has a blood clot and it was a blood thinner or something.
Right. I mean, look, these are all good questions. I can't answer those questions, but what we know is that she had mobility issues. They said she couldn't walk the sheriff even said the 50 yards to the street here, if it's 50 yards or less than that. But as far as, medication, we know she had a pacemaker. That was part of the timeline. The pacemaker went off, along with then, losing the images inside and some of the cameras, and security cameras here as well. So these are all very good questions among the unanswered questions at this point as this investigation continues, now day 10 of the investigation, Greta.
John Huddy, thank you. Coming up, yesterday at 5 p.m. local time, the kidnapper's deadline for Nancy Guthrie passed. TMZ received one of the alleged ransom notes. TMZ's executive producer joins me next. Plus, 3 million Epstein documents is a lot. So was something published that was not supposed to be? That one, the record continues.
Federal agencies urge every family to have an emergency radio. During any disaster, electrical power may get cut. The emergency radio gives you the vital information you need. Newsmax wants you to have the Dynamo Emergency Band Radio. It doesn't need batteries and works in any emergencies. It retails for $30. You can get it with the free offer. Call or go online and get the emergency radio today. Your life may depend on it.
I'm Elmer Heinrich. At 91 years of age, here with my wife Shirley, who is 83. Now, both of us are still cutting a wide swath in life, all because of Immuno 150. Now, we are asking you to use Immuno 150 like we do. Give it a chance for at least 90 days so that you can see what 70 plant minerals and 80 additional nutrients can do for you.
It really is incredible.
Yeah, try it. You will be surprised. Order now. You'll be glad you did.
Hello, this is WWE Hall of Fame wrestler Mick Foley. Across this great country, there are thousands of veterans with no place to call home. They deserve better.
Welcome to my new home.
The Tunnel to Towers Foundation is committed to eradicating veteran homelessness by providing housing and critical services.
Couldn't ask for anything more.
Please help by donating $11 a month at T2T.org. The Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Let us do good.
For pain in multiple spots like here, or here. Salon Pass patches stick firmly and remove comfortably once your pain is gone. Salon Pass. It's good medicine.
This is keratin debris, where nail fungus grows. Nonix nail gel cleans out fungus by removing keratin debris. Using Nonix, 90% of nails improve. Get clinically proven results. So effective, it's money-back guaranteed.
Hello, everyone. It's President Donald J. Trump, and it's Trump time. Check out this red beauty. It's one of my new watches. Wear it proudly on your wrist, and everyone will know exactly what it's for, who it represents. It's really going to be something special. It's for your favorite president. Get your watch today at gettrumpwatches.com. These make a great gift. It's Trump time.
As we all analyze new video and pictures of the suspect in the Nancy Guthrie case, the president and his press secretary have also looked at these videos and pictures. Here's what White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt said.
The president encourages any American across the country with any knowledge of this suspect to please call the FBI, who continue to assist state and local authorities who are leading this investigation on the ground. And once again, I will reiterate that the prayers of this entire White House are with Savannah and her family at this time. And we hope this person is found soon and that her mother is brought home safely.
Yesterday, we were talking all about a ransom deadline. That deadline was 5 p.m. Mountain Time. TMZ reports the deadline has passed without any payment. TMZ executive producer Charles Latibeaudiere joins me. Nice to see you again, Charles. And what do you make of these tapes today? What do you see?
You know, Greta, I think this is clearly a huge break, because now we finally have someone who's clearly involved in this in some way. The fact that they showed up right before we know the camera was disabled, and, you know, with their face covered, heavy-duty gloves on, the efforts to cover up the camera. This is clearly someone who's involved. But I got to tell you, we're a little puzzled by something in this video. While they have this backpack, presumably with tools used for the caper, there's a gun, and the face is covered, so it looks like they planned this out well. Except, how did they not know that there was going to be a camera at the door? Like, that just seems like the most basic thing that you would expect, and that you would show up ready to cover that, or to back up to the camera and then cover it with something. It just seems like it's clear that they had thought this out. There was some plan, but the most basic thing they forgot. And I guess this is what law enforcement always counts on, right? That criminals are dumb, and that they're going to make that one mistake that hopefully the police can capitalize on.
Well, you know, what strikes me is that sweater the person is wearing, I think it's a man. I mean, I know people are saying we don't know if it's a man or a woman. It looks pretty much like a man to me. That has the long zipper down the front that's someone might recognize. Whoever did this, and assuming that Nancy Guthrie is live, has had to babysit her for the last 9 or 10 days. You can't just leave someone in a room. So that person has obviously had, if all of a sudden someone disappears from work or someone doesn't show up, or, you know, I mean, someone whose life has a vastly different schedule in the last 10 days, that's going to be suspicious. Someone may recognize that ski cap, but that backpack, you know, that's also something someone might recognize. What's in there? Rope? If it's rope and he went inside and tied her up, he's got his DNA all over the room.
Mm-hmm. Except, well, the only thing I'd say about the DNA, although who knows when they put that rope in there, but they did show up with those, you know, heavy-duty rubber gloves on. So another sign that they came intending to do something nefarious there. And I agree with you. I mean, we've been calling on the website saying that this is a man. We can not only just from the build, but also you can see that there's facial hair above his lip and below his lip. So there's either a full beard or a goatee going on there. I just don't know, while they clearly have a plan, they didn't have the basic thing down that there was going to be a camera.
But you
get a good look at his eyes also. You get a very good look at his eyes. And I think that is, someone may recognize that. I think this is a huge break now, because now instead of the internet doing what it does, which is coming up with all sorts of theories and speculating. Now the internet can look at this and say, I recognize something here. And yes, the FBI and the police are going to get flooded with, you know, probably 98% of the tips they're going to get are not going to lead to something, but it's that 2% that they're hoping to get that breaks the case.
Well, the other thing I found is interesting is that I think it's somebody who knew her or been to the house, because the person is not fumbling around looking for things. The person makes pretty direct moves, approaches the door, then goes back, looks like maybe got a key or something like that, or did something, and comes back. It's not somebody who's spending a lot of time on the porch trying to figure out where he is and what he has to do. They're pretty direct movements, like the person's been there before.
I would assume that. That's what I've been assuming all along, that it was someone, you know, that had some contact with her. I've heard FBI profilers say that generally it is someone who's had contact or knows the victim. But again, I don't know why they were not prepared for this camera. If it is someone who's been to the house before, they would know that. But maybe it's someone who, you know, never approached the house from that front door. Who knows? But they definitely just seem surprised by it.
Charles, I was a criminal defense lawyer for years, and some of my clients did the dumbest things that you never think, like, why didn't you plan for that? But whatever. Anyway, Charles, TMZ is really doing a great job on this. Thank you for joining me, Charles.
All right, you got it. Anytime, Greta. Thanks.
A stunning development in the Jeffrey Epstein story. Republican Kentucky Congressman Tom Massie demands that the DOJ release names that the DOJ redacted. And then the congressman gets exactly what he asked for. Last night, the Justice Department unredacted multiple names from the already released Epstein files. This comes after Democratic California Congressman Ro Khanna and Republican Kentucky Congressman Thomas Massie said they spotted at least 6 redacted names of people who are, quote, likely incriminated. Also last night, Massie took to X to post a list of 20 names. All of the names were redacted other than Epstein and his accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell. With the list, Massie said, quote, Congressman Khanna and I just spent 2 hours at DOJ viewing the mostly unredacted Epstein files. 4 of the 18 redacted names on this document are men born before 1970. DOJ needs to explain why they are redacted unless they were just randoms in a lineup, end quote. Following that criticism of DOJ, the DOJ released this list you see on your screen, unredacting the names of 16 other people on the list. United States Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche responded to Massie on X saying, quote, the document you cite has numerous victim names. We have just unredacted all non-victim names from this document. The DOJ is committed to transparency, end quote. And now, according to a newly released FBI document, in the mid-2000s, Donald Trump, who is obviously now the President of the United States, called the Palm Beach, Florida Police Department to express gratitude for their handling of Epstein. The document reads in part, quote, Trump called the Palm Beach Police Department to tell, thank goodness, you're stopping him. Everyone has known he's been doing this. Trump told the police, people in New York knew Epstein was disgusting. Trump said, according to the report, that Ghislaine Maxwell was Epstein's operative. She is evil, and to focus on her. Trump told that he was around Epstein once when teenagers were present, and Trump said, get the hell out of here, end quote. Coming up, Savannah Guthrie's new plea when the record continues. People think news just happens. It doesn't. It happens because there's someone there to capture the moment, to explain it and share it. That's my job. I go where news breaks and give you the facts. Join me for the record on Newsmax.
You have seen the false headlines about Israel and the influencers spreading lies. The consequences are devastating.
Radical Islamists supporting regimes have launched a multi-billion-dollar media campaign aimed at convincing American youth to hate Israel.
Friends of Zion is fighting the propaganda head-on. For the first time in history, more than 1,000 American pastors and leaders have gathered in the Holy Land. This is not a political movement, it is a spiritual one. A generation is being called to stand for truth.
That Israel that you see on social media is not what it is.
We need to get this story out.
We saw the faces, we felt the emotions.
If this was in our neighborhood, this wouldn't be allowed to stand.
Visit friendsofzion.org to join us at this crucial time and watch the full story of 1,000 American pastors on this journey of a lifetime.
set sail toward fast asthma relief with Brethora.
$300 for a refill?
Don't pay that. Use Single Care. Look up your prescription, show the coupon to the pharmacist, and save.
See why more people are saving with Single Care.
Joining us is Dr. Drew from the Wellness Company with advice for dealing with seasonal colds and flu. Doctor?
Cold and flu season is here, and every year you or a loved one gets sick. Your doctor can't see you. Waiting in a crowded urgent care is brutal. This is a particularly bad cold and flu season, and it's why doctors suggest every family needs an emergency medical kit. Your medical emergency kit is filled with essential prescriptions. It includes antibiotics like generic Z-Pak to get well faster, amoxicillin for pneumonia, strep throat, ear infections, plus prescriptions for nausea and UTIs, and even ivermectin. It's easy. Just match your symptoms to the prescription in your guidebook or call the telemedicine doctor standing by. Take your medication early and feel better faster. Having a medical emergency kit is like having an urgent care in your home. No waiting to see a doctor, no lines at the pharmacy.
Smart advice. We've shared the website and discount code below to save viewers $45. Order now and your kit will be rushed to your door. Thank you, doctor.
I am sure you're aware foods contain no more than 10 to 12 minerals. This is because of topsoil mineral depletion. Your body needs many more than 12 minerals to be healthy. How can you get them? I recommend Immuno 150. This incredible nutritional supplement is different. It doesn't contain metallic minerals like most vitamin and mineral supplements. Immuno 150 contains 70 easily digested plant-derived minerals and 80 additional nutrients. There is nothing like it. The 70 plant minerals are the key to its effectiveness, its popularity, and its high reorder rate. If you want a food supplement that produces outstanding results and really makes a difference, try Immuno 150. Look at the 3 videos on the Immuno 150 website and consider placing an order. Thank you.
We continue to follow the breaking news, the new video of the armed masked person outside the home of Nancy Guthrie right before she vanished. After those new videos were released, Savannah Guthrie posted on Instagram saying, quote, "Someone out there recognizes this person. We believe she is still out there. Bring her home," end quote. Cybersecurity expert and CEO and founder of the National Center for Open and Unsolved Cases, Morgan Wright, joins me. Nice to see you again, Morgan.
Hi, Greta.
All right, Morgan. If I pay $6 million in Bitcoin or a cryptocurrency into an account, can you track me down?
If there's a transaction of trying to attempt to withdraw it, yes. So once a wallet can sit there for a long time, and there's no way to really figure out who did it, right? It could stay dormant for 20 years, 2 years. But the minute there's transactions in and out, then that's where.
Let me stop you there. Then what's the point? If accessing the account's going to get me caught, why would I do that?
Because you might be doing it from a place to where you've got a banking system already set up. Ransomware does this all the time. Ransomware has gotten very good at this. They set up, they steal your data, they put ransomware on there, they want the ransom paid in Bitcoin. So a lot of times these are done through countries where there's no mutual legal assistance treaty, so they're not going to help you out, or where there's no extradition treaty. So if they had it set up, they might have it set up on a case like this, that if you paid into it, it would be into a country to where they already have an established account or could withdraw the money. But even then, this is so high profile. Even if that happens, Greta, the FBI's been doing this on terrorism cases, organized crime cases. They would track them down. Whether or not the host country where this transaction was going would cooperate, that's a different matter.
All right. When you asked to have a deposit in a Bitcoin, what would that look like? Is that just a series of numbers? I mean, I've never deposited Bitcoin money.
Look, a Bitcoin address is nothing but math, right? There's what they call a public key and a private key, and together they create your Bitcoin address. That's your unique signature. It's like an email address. So if I wanted to give you money, if you say, hey, here's my Bitcoin, I could use several types of wallets, Robinhood, all of these different ones to put money. I'd have to put U.S. money in there, or, currency of your choice. And then it converts into Bitcoin, and then I send it to you. The difference with this, Greta, versus like sending money like internationally through a wire, cryptocurrency transactions can settle in like 10 minutes. You write it to the Bitcoin, the blockchain ledger. It does this thing, consensus algorithm. All the machines agree, yeah, it's a valid transaction. It's written to an immutable ledger, and it's done in 10 minutes. That's why in many of these other cases, if you send money, if you wire it, if it's fraud, they can actually claw back that money because it takes 4 to 5 days to go through the international system. So it came to prevalence, obviously, because of the dark web, things like Silk Road, Pirates Bay. But they've gotten and we were behind the curve on it. But I'm telling you right now, with terrorism financing, with all of these other cases, it's very tough. There's anonymity, but it is not total anonymity. And if the intelligence community or the FBI wants to find you, they're going to find you.
All right, there are 2 notes that we talked about, 2 ransom notes. I don't know if they both asked for a Bitcoin payment or not. But I mean, what about tracking down the person who sent the emails? I mean, I suppose that you can conceal where that's coming from.
Yeah, you know, there are ways through using the dark web. There's ways through using secure anonymous remailers to where they strip out all of the data that they collect on you, like the logs, like the IP addresses. They just collect nothing. So it's a black hole. Once you send it and it's gone, there's no traceability back. But that makes it very tough because to get a communication back, the internet needs a return address, right? So if I send you a letter and you're going to send me one back, what's the return address? So without that, that's why there was no communication back and forth. I think this was, in my opinion, and I wrote about this on my Substack called Crime Reconstructed, I said that we have not reached the level where there's enough evidentiary proof to say that this is a ransom note. It is evidence of claim does not equal evidence of control. And there was never a point to where I was satisfied that they had control and custody of Nancy. So, but once you paid it, though, the money would have been gone. It would have been tough for them to get it back. It might have been tough for those persons to do it. But using that secure anonymous remailer created another layer of anonymity, but it's not impenetrable. And I think the FBI is working that backwards to its source right now.
Well, I thought it was odd that there's no dialogue back and forth, at least no reported dialogue back and forth in some form, other than that the Guthrie family would take to doing videos.
Right.
Anything else strike you about peculiar or anything that stands out with you about this?
Yeah, you know, just watching the video and stuff, it's just as a detective who used to work cases, and thank goodness, like you say, we get some dumb criminals because they make the work easy. But this guy here, the more I look at it, you have to look at behavioral clues too. And so from the behavior, this doesn't appear to be a targeted abduction. And one of the reasons why is that when you have a targeted abduction, you increase your risk the longer you stay on the X, the longer you're there. So as time decays, your risk starts to go up. So it's your desires to get in, get out. My question is with this, Greta, while the family may not know who this person is, I'm wondering if the reason there obviously was some kind of confrontation because we had blood. My question is, was there a confrontation because Nancy recognized this person and he thought, oh, if I let her get away, if I run away now, she's going to recognize me. And that could be because of voice. He obviously had a mask on. So was it something he said or something he did? So I'm concerned about, well, not concerned. I'm curious about that as to whether or not she has some, we don't know what her knowledge is, but that may be one of the reasons why there was a confrontation. Because normally in many of the cases I'm sure, you know, it's the same way. You break in, you find somebody's there, they throw up their hands, you run out the door because you don't want to get caught.
Yes, and the only thing about the blood I'd say is that, you know, and we don't know, is that if she's on a blood thinner, any, you know, slight injury is gonna create some blood. You know, people on blood thinner bleed pretty easily. Anyway, Morgan Wright, thank you.
You bet, Greta.
And it could be a change in how you get your news. Currently, federal laws prohibit a single broadcaster from owning TV stations that reach more than 39% of U.S. households. But Nexstar Media Group wants FCC approval for its more than $6 billion acquisition of Tegna, another station group. If approved, the deal would increase Nexstar's broadcast household reach to more than 80%. Nexstar would own 244 major TV stations across 44 states. Today, the Senate Commerce Committee held a hearing on whether or not to lift that 39% cap. Newsmax CEO Chris Ruddy was among those who testified. He explained what's at stake.
There are 50 top cable channels in America. Newsmax is the only one operated by an independent media company. Every other channel is owned or created by a conglomerate. Newsmax's success proves the system is broken, and that this poses risks to competition, consumers, and even our democracy. We need more independent media. We need more competition, not less. Newsmax does not hold any broadcast licenses, but we are directly affected by TV consolidation. Large station groups hold enormous leverage over pay TV operators through retransmission fees. These station groups can dictate prices and even determine what networks cable operators must carry. Nexstar provides a clear example. It owns about 200 stations today. If cable operators want to carry those stations, they have to pay Nexstar very high retrans fees. If they refuse, Nexstar can pull the plug, go dark, leaving viewers without the programming.
In November, President Trump signaled his opposition to removing the 39% ownership cap. But last week, in a surprise, the president expressed support for the Nexstar-Tegna merger. Coming up, you might have to get out your photo ID. Find out why when House Majority Leader Steve Scalise joins me next when the record continues.
When I served in combat, we relied on the most accurate information to complete the mission. We worked in small units that require trust. That mission hasn't changed. I'll bring you the best information that you can trust.
Watch Carl Higby's Frontline every weeknight, 6 p.m. Eastern on Newsmax.
Precise designs, subtle curves, curated upgrades, elevated design for thoughtful living. Thuma.
When I'm congested, I can't breathe, can't sleep. That's why I Navage. The powered suction gives me the power to remove congestion fast by flushing out germs, mucus, bacteria, and viruses. In like 30 seconds, I can feel the results.
Get #1 doctor-recommended Navage.
You deserve high quality. You really do. At Balance of Nature, we don't cut corners. We could cut corners or extract individual vitamins and minerals rather than source whole foods. But that's not who we are. We don't isolate one specific part and sell it alone. Why? Because phytonutrients are woven into the whole plant. Everything works together as one complete package the way nature intended. Balance of Nature supplements aren't dried juice or a powdered extract. They are a vibrant mix of ingredients of 47 whole fruits, vegetables, spices, and fibers. Each ingredient then goes through a tailored vacuum-cooled process, is grounded into a fine powder, and packed into plant-based capsules in order to preserve those naturally occurring phytonutrients. We are real ingredients only, always. Start your journey with Balance of Nature supplements. Go to balanceofnature.com and subscribe and save today.
What's gold is new again, pardon the pun. But considering gold has been used as currency since around 550 BC, it has been on fire the past year. I'm here with Daniel Boston, the founder of Preserve Gold. Why is gold so stable and such a good investment for many people?
Take the central bank, for example, the Federal Reserve. They print money out of thin air, and then they take that printed money to go buy hard assets like gold to protect themselves against the very risks that they're creating. So I always tell people, don't do what the big players are telling you to do. Do what they're doing themselves.
Yeah, watch what they're doing.
That's correct.
Okay. If people are interested in investing with Preserve Gold, how do they get started?
Text Newsmax to 50505 to get your free information and up to $15,000 in free gold and silver with a qualified purchase. That's right. Text Newsmax to 50505.
All right. No way you can miss it.
Just in time for our country's big celebration, the Kids Guide to America's 250th birthday is here, and it's free. Give your kids this epic story of freedom, heroes, and fireworks. Get it at freeusagift.com. That's freeusagift.com.
Don't kibble your dog.
Hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, back.
What's wrong with this?
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means they're ultra-processed. At Dr. Marty, we freeze-dried premium meats, fruits, and vegetables, and they're gonna love it.
As a cardiologist, when I put my patients on a statin to reduce cholesterol, I also tell them it can deplete their CoQ10 levels. I recommend taking Cunol CoQ10. Cunol has 3 times better absorption than regular CoQ10. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Another deadline, it's Friday. If the House and the Senate don't work things out, the Department of Homeland Security funding could be shut down. This Friday's deadline is a result of the 2-week extension that was agreed upon to give lawmakers time to negotiate an agreement for DHS funding. But at this moment, it does not look like Republicans and Democrats are even close to a deal. Holding it up appears to be the Democrats' list of demands that are related to ICE and other federal agencies. Meanwhile, today, immigration officials in the Trump administration testified before the House Homeland Security Committee. Here are a few highlights.
We are facing the deadliest operating environment in our agency's history. In fiscal year 2025, death threats against ICE personnel increased more than 8,000%. Assaults on officers have skyrocketed over 1,400%. The families of ICE personnel have been made to feel unsafe in their homes. I know this firsthand because my own family was targeted. But let me send a message to anyone who thinks they can intimidate us. You will fail.
CBP's had to build out this capability over the years because we had been dealing with increased protests at the border, mass incursions, so we trained our people how to do crowd control. But let's not miss the fact that we have coordinated, well-funded, and I think insurgencies or terrorist organizations, however you want to call it, literally trying to prevent legal laws from being enforced in the United States.
Is it safer for your agents and also the illegal alien criminal if your officers are able to go into a jail instead of having to go out and find them on the street? Mr. Lyons, I'll start with you.
Yes, sir, it would be. You wouldn't see the amount of law enforcement officers involved in immigration operations.
Right. How about you, Mr. Scott?
I 100% agree with the director, and just as importantly, it would allow me to put more agents back on the border to prevent people from getting in here in the first place.
Will you stand with the kids who you're supposed to protect, or will you side with the killers bringing terror to our streets? Mr. Lyons, will you resign from ICE?
No, sir, I won't.
Why not?
Because, sir, that child that you're showing right there, the men and women of ICE took care of him when his father abandoned him and ran from law enforcement.
Meanwhile, this week, the House is expected to vote on the Save America Act. The bill would require individuals to present an eligible photo ID document before voting. It would also require states to obtain proof of citizenship in person when registering someone to vote. What do Americans think about this? Well, back in August of 2025, between the 4th and the 10th, Pew Research Center conducted a survey that asked 3,554 American voters if they supported requiring all voters to show government-issued photo identification to vote. A whopping 83% said yes, 16% said no, 1% were undecided. Republican Louisiana Congressman and House Majority Leader Steve Scalise joins me. Good afternoon, sir. And is the SAVE Act going to pass, do you think, in the Senate?
Well, Greta, first, great to be with you. Thanks for having me again. And the SAVE Act is so important to get passed through the House first. And we're not taking that for granted with a 2-seat majority. But then getting it passed through the Senate to President Trump's desk is critically important. I think you're seeing more people across the country take notice of this bill. The idea of, one, proving your citizenship to register, and then, as you mentioned, showing an ID to vote. This is something that you do to get on an airplane, to go to a bar, for goodness sake. How about to show an ID when you exercise the main right of democracy, and that is to vote? I think everybody gets it, 83% of Americans, as you pointed out, and it crosses all demographics, Republican, Democrat, Black, white, Hispanic. All groups support it by over 70%. And so we're going to get this bill passed to the Senate tomorrow. And then I think you're going to see a lot of pressure on the Senate to move this bill to President Trump's desk.
I guess I assume it's going to pass tomorrow in the House because when it was up last time in April, that you got a couple of Democrats, so I wasn't even thinking to do anything but pass. But you're right, it might. There's always a question with such a razor close margin in the House, but at the Senate I think is more of a problem for it. But here's what I went back and did a little research. Pennsylvania, Nevada, and Minnesota. All the winner of those states won by less than 4 points, which is why we need to make sure who's voting. I mean, in the old days when there were giant landslides, it really didn't matter if we had some imperfections. But we're now at a point in history where we have these very close races. And so for that reason, we really do need to make sure that, one vote per citizen.
Yeah, and exactly. I served with a colleague, Marinette Miller-Meeks, in Iowa, who won her first election by 6 votes. Closest vote that anybody can recall in the history of Congress. 6 votes, 4 people changing their votes, or 7 people voting illegally would have changed that outcome. And look, Joe Biden opened the border and millions of people came in illegally, and some states actually allow illegals to vote in local elections. This bill says in federal elections, you have to prove citizenship and you have to show an ID to vote. Prove who you are. Because, Greta, when you go by the mantra of one person, one vote, which we all believe in, that is nullified if somebody votes illegally. They're stealing your vote. And I think most Americans get that. Most Americans know if somebody is stealing your vote because they're voting illegally, it undermines confidence in elections. And so this actually has led to more confidence in the outcome of elections in states where it's been done. And I think everybody, America gets it.
And I don't understand. I always use this example. I can be halfway around the world in the middle of the night in Doha in the airport changing planes. And I can take $100 out of the ATM machine, and instantly here in D.C. it's withdrawn from my account. So, so it's beyond me that we can't figure out a system where every citizen gets a right to vote. Nobody gets to vote. And by the way, for those Democrats, and nobody gets to vote twice.
I'm sorry to jump in, but for those Democrats who are vocally opposing this, Chuck Schumer calls it Jim Crow 2.0. Chuck Schumer required you to show an ID to get into the Democrat National Convention, Greta. They're hypocrites. Senator Ossoff over the weekend had a town hall meeting. You needed to show an ID to get into his town hall meeting, and yet he won't vote to require ID to vote. So let's expose hypocrisy. If they're going to try to oppose this bill, I think all Americans are going to be watching.
House Majority Leader Steve Scalise, thank you, sir.
Great being with you, Greta. Thanks.
Thank you. Coming up, there's a crisis in Cuba, and no, it doesn't relate to missiles. I'll explain when the record continues.
I'm Elmer Heinrich, at 91 years of age, here with my wife Shirley, who is 83. Now, both of us are still cutting a wide swath in life, all because of Immuno 150. Now, we are asking you to use Immuno 150 like we do. Give it a chance for at least 90 days so that you can see what 70 plant minerals and 80 additional nutrients can do for you.
It really is incredible.
Yeah, try it. You will be surprised. Order now. You'll be glad you did.
We're down here in Wimberley, Texas, to build a smart home for Dustin Weber.
We want to welcome the Weber family to Wimberley.
Yesterday was just amazing.
The thought that has been put into these smart homes, they've thought of everything that will make his life better.
This home allows me the freedom to experience my children, taking them to bed. This home allows me the freedom to not slip and fall in the bathroom. It is a life-changing experience.
The sound of an American original. It's the Omaha Steaks President's Day event, and we're celebrating with our President's Day assortment, all for just $99.99. Save 50% site-wide and get free burgers when you visit omahasteaks.com/TV today.
Champions trust Cosequin, the #1 vet-recommended retail joint health supplement brand.
If anyone has told you that gaining weight, feeling tired, and joint issues is just a part of getting older, they are wrong. My name is Dr. Stephen Guthrie, and I found a new way to support my health. It's called BioComplete 3. BioComplete 3 works by restoring your gut health from the inside out. This is working for everybody.
I was 270. I'm now 140. It just feels amazing.
You can try BioComplete 3 risk-free for 90 days.
Go to GundryMD.com/TV.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work. Try to see a doctor this week or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Order online and save $45. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS. That's urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS.
We're going to take you back to the Nancy Guthrie case. Today, the FBI and the Pima County Sheriff released pictures and videos. They showed masked armed person, a man, I think, outside Nancy Guthrie's home on the morning of her disappearance. Senior correspondent John Huddy joins me again from Tucson. John?
Yeah, and Greta, we're getting some information right now that sheriff's investigators, Pima County Sheriff's investigators and the FBI are actually canvassing now the neighborhood of where Annie Guthrie and her husband, Tommaso Cioni, live, which is about 4 miles from their mother's home, Nancy Guthrie's home here in Tucson. Not sure what they're doing, why they're doing that. They're talking to some neighbors from what we understand, from what we're hearing and some of the information that we're getting at this point. Keep in mind that as part of this investigation, obviously, sheriff's deputies, FBI are talking to friends, they're talking to family, they're talking to neighbors. They talk to neighbors in this area to see if they heard anything, if they saw anything the night and the morning of Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. And also Saturday night, the same night that Savannah Guthrie this past weekend released a video message begging for her mother to be returned safely and saying we must pay, and presumably in response to those alleged ransom notes. We don't know if they're a hoax, if they're real, if they're authentic. But investigators also went to Annie Guthrie's home, and we're seeing inside taking photographs of what we don't know. If they removed anything from the home, we don't know. That could, just simply be to exclude family, to exclude Annie and her husband, who were the last people to see Nancy Guthrie, having dinner with her and spending some time with her the night of her disappearance and before her disappearance, now as we go into the 10th day of this investigation. But that said, this is a major development, as we've been talking about throughout the day. The video and the images of this quote-unquote armed individual going to the front door of Nancy Guthrie's home here in Tucson, Arizona. And one final point, just to give me an idea of how sometimes chaotic these scenes could be, just the massive media presence here, Greta. You can see, just as I just show you the road here, you can see follow me over here, Carlos. You can see the massive media presence, but sheriff's deputies actually just showed up and went to each news crew and asked them not to use Nancy Guthrie's address to order food, because apparently somebody did that, and a Domino's delivery driver came here and actually went up to the door, if you can believe that, to deliver pizza. One of the journalists here, I guess, ordered some pizza. But obviously it's a very, intensive scene as this story, as the investigation continues to develop. And of course, if we have any more breaking news or any major developments, we'll have it for you. Greta.
I check every car of every friend, family member, and everybody for blood, but I will see what happens. John Huddy, thank you. President Trump has used tariffs to gain leverage over countries. Now the president is using tariffs and oil to target Cuba. Last month, the Wall Street Journal reported the Trump administration wants, by year's end, a regime change in Cuba. Late last month, President Trump signed an executive order that threatened tariffs on any country selling oil to Cuba. Fast forward to today. Cuba is facing a major fuel shortage. As a consequence, Cuban officials are telling airlines that there is not enough fuel to refuel planes on their island. In response, Air Canada has announced the suspension of all flights to Cuba. On Monday, Mexico's president offered to help Cuba, and today Cuba got another offer. China said it would provide support to Cuba. By the way, last week, Cuba's president said he is willing to speak with President Trump. And speaking of Cuba, or of Canada rather, President Trump has threatened to block a new bridge connecting Canada to Michigan. The more than $4 billion bridge spans the Detroit River. It would connect Detroit to Windsor, Ontario. The bridge is expected to open early this year. So why does Trump want to block it? In a Truth Social post, the president writes, quote, "I will not allow this bridge to open until the United States is fully compensated for everything we have given them. And also importantly, Canada treats the United States with the fairness and respect that we deserve," end quote. The bridge, named after Canadian hockey player Gordie Howe, was paid for by Canada, but the bridge is owned by both Canada and Michigan. Today, Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney spoke with President Trump. Carney says he repeated that Canada paid for the bridge. Carney said the bridge will bring tourism and commerce to both nations. Coming up, what is faster than a human racing down a mountain on two skis? We're going to show you when the record continues.
Are you or a loved one a military veteran that has been diagnosed with mesothelioma? Do you have questions about getting the best treatment or paying medical bills? Have you received the proper care and compensation you deserve? Let our firm serve you with the same dedication you served your country. We are exclusively devoted to helping those with mesothelioma. Call now to get this free book, and we'll answer any question you have. We'll even visit you.
Call 800-555-8958 or go to mesobook.com.
Hello, everyone. It's President Donald J. Trump, and it's Trump time. Check out this red beauty. It's one of my new watches. Wear it proudly on your wrist, and everyone will know exactly what it's for, who it represents. It's really going to be something special. It's for your favorite president. Get your watch today at gettrumpwatches.com. Please make a great gift. It's Trump time.
guys. Viagra is not your only option. Rove Sparks act fast and stay active longer. They aren't pills. Sparks dissolve under your tongue to reach your bloodstream for speedy results. Connect with a provider at rove.co/sparks.
At Allegiance, we do it differently. Flags 100% made in America by Americans with American materials.
We're proud to create jobs right here in South Carolina. It might not be the easiest way, but it's the right way.
We make American flags the way they should be made, where they should be made.
Join our pledge to keep the American flag truly American.
Visit showallegiance.com to get your high-quality American flag today. That's showallegiance.com.
Muscle cramps were keeping me up at night, so then I tried Slomag, the magnesium plus calcium supplement that helps relax tense muscles so I can rest comfortably. And Slomag tablets have a slow-release formula that's gentle on my stomach. That's why I use Slomag.
I am sure you're aware foods contain no more than 10 to 12 minerals. This is because of topsoil mineral depletion. Your body needs many more than 12 minerals to be healthy. How can you get them? I recommend Immuno 150. This incredible nutritional supplement is different. It doesn't contain metallic minerals like most vitamin and mineral supplements. Immuno 150 contains 70 easily digested plant-derived minerals and 80 additional nutrients. There is nothing like it. The 70 plant minerals are the key to its effectiveness, its popularity, and its high reorder rate. If you want a food supplement that produces outstanding results and really makes a difference, try Immuno 150. Look at the 3 videos on the Immuno 150 website and consider placing an order. Thank you. Don't kibble your dog.
Oh, hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, back.
But what's wrong with this? It's premium stuff.
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means it's ultra-processed at extremely high temperatures that destroy the nutrients in the food. But at Dr. Marty, we gently freeze-dried premium meats, fruit, and vegetables, locking in their nutrients.
Never kibbled.
You got it, kid, and they're gonna love it.
Sponsored by Dr. Marty Nature's Blend, the health of fresh food with the convenience of kibble. Visit drmartypets.com/TV.
Every 4 years, Olympian skiers face fierce competition, but they better hope this competitor doesn't show up. He may take the gold. 3 years ago on the slopes in Italy, in the town of Bormio, at a World Cup event, skiers were ready to launch, but this ski race got this competitor, not on skis, but on 4 legs. A dog broke free from his owner. He dodged capture on every single turn. He went full speed down the hills. The cameras caught all the angles showing his skill, and he stole the show. Thanks for watching. Ed Henry, The Big Take, is up next. Stay with Newsmax.